Let's take a breath together. So, first of all, I want to appreciate a couple of folks sent emails asking me to explain a couple of the terms that we're using. And I really appreciate that, because if you don't tell me you're not clear what they mean, I don't know. So I really appreciate folks reaching out going, what does that mean? So in January, I'm going to do a quick recap. We explored what the meaning of our 2021 theme is. Timeless wisdom. And timeless, so let's take that piece apart, because I had a couple people ask me, what does timeless wisdom really refer to? Well, wisdom is the accumulated philosophical and scientific learning. Timeless literally means not bound by any particular linear time period. And so timeless wisdom is looking at that accumulated body of learning beyond time frames, finding those truths that apply no matter where you apply them. It is timeless. It was true then, it's true now, and it's going to be true tomorrow. And so the other piece is evolutionary vision. Evolutionary simply relating to the gradual development of something. Vision, as we're using it, is Creator's highest idea of itself as creation. Right? And so the evolutionary vision is literally what we're referring to is life unfolding itself in, through, and as its creation, of which we are inextricably a part of. And so in February, we explored the individualization of that through one journey, many paths. In March, we looked at being open to possibility through the practice of visioning, to really dare to live in the question, what is the divine's highest expression of itself as my life? And this month, the next step is exploring stepping into the unknown. Because while we may catch the vision, it's significantly unknown how it's going to unfold. Right? And being in human form, we have this lovely thing called an ego that really wants to know how everything's going to happen, wants to know when everything's going to happen, and wants the predictability of guarantees that it's going to happen exactly that way without deviation. And that doesn't happen. And so our ego gets a little frazzled from time to time. Right? So the spiritual principle that we're working with this morning, our talk title is BLESS-ITATION. Now, if you couldn't find that word in the dictionary, that's a good thing, because it's not there. Okay. We made it up, because we do that sometimes. But the spiritual principle we're working with is wholeness. Okay? And wholeness literally means a state of forming a complete and harmonious whole. A unity, a state of being unbroken or undamaged. That's who you are. That is the truth of you. You are a whole, complete, harmonious unity within yourself, and life is that at the macro level. So how come we don't experience it that way? Well, before we get there, let me remind us of the what we believe statement that we're working with this month. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. In the global vision statement that we're working with, we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence. We could stop there, but we don't. And discovering the creative power of thought. A world where every person discovers their personal power and ability to create an individualized life that works within a world that works for everyone. And quite literally, what that is talking about is that we live in alignment with the truth of our being. And when each individualized expression lives in alignment, our choices are made in alignment, and the harmonious operation of the whole must be the activity. And that is a world that will absolutely work for everyone. So let's look at this idea of bless-itation. First of all, blessed means consecrated, made holy. Every one of us is blessed. Every one of us was made holy because we're made out of holiness. Right? And just whatever you're made out of, you're that. It's a state, but I want to look at the suffix of the word bless-itation. Language fascinates me. And just the ation part of that, right? The suffix ation carries way more meaning than I had any idea. It literally means a state, a condition, or quality of. Right? The condition of being something, the act of being something, the result of being something. So bless-itation then takes us to a state of being blessed. Right? The condition of being blessed. The act of blessing. The result of blessing. And yet, many of us don't really experience our lives that way. Right? When we embark on any journey in this human realm, paradox shows up. We do the visioning and we catch the vision and we're on fire and we surrender to the unknown. And then paradox shows up. Hesitation shows up. Okay? Hesitation. The condition of being hesitant. Okay, let's go back to those things there for just a minute. The state or condition or quality of hesitant. The act of hesitating. The result of hesitating. Hesitation. But perhaps, rather than vilifying hesitation, we can reframe that it's a moment of bless-itation that gives us pause and the power of choice to realign with truth. Doubt is going to show up. That's the paradox. That's the constant dance between our spiritual and our ego. We don't have to make it a bad thing, right? But here's what I'll tell you. If we stay in hesitation, it will lead to frustration, it will lead to exasperation, it will lead to trepidation, it will lead to desperation. Right? Notice how it snowballs. And it snowballs because that's where our focus is. Our focus is in the problem, and our focus is indicative of what we're believing. So if I have simply a moment of hesitation, perhaps that is just a divine discontent, a nudge that is letting me know that there's something in my belief system slightly out of alignment. Right? It's like when you're tuning a guitar, you listen for the resonance of the two strings. Right? And the way you know something is out of pitch is you hear two resonances. There's a hesitation between the vibration. Okay? And so perhaps the moment of BLESS-ITATION is that moment where we become aware that there's a rub. And it's simply a moment to come back to our thinking. Where have I placed my focus? Where have I placed my belief? Because most of us, this microphone has a mind of its own. Most of us in that moment where we have that, this isn't going to work out the way I think it's going to work out, perhaps that's true. And perhaps that moment of hesitation is a moment to become aware of what is operating in our belief system that we already know is there that is going to sabotage what we're doing. Because when we become aware of what's operating, now we know how to correct it, right? If I'm tuning the guitar, I have to become aware that they're out of tune in order to know which way to turn it to bring it into alignment. Pema Chodron says this in her book, When Things Fall Apart. We think that by protecting ourselves from suffering, that we are being kind to ourselves. The truth is, we only become more fearful, more hardened, more alienated. We experience ourselves as being separate from the whole. Yet, when we don't close off and we let our hearts break, we discover our kinship with all beings. Just as a jewel that has been buried in the earth for 1,000,000 years is not discolored or harmed, in the same way this noble heart is not affected by all our kicking and screaming. The jewel can be brought out into the light at any time, and it will glow as brilliantly as if nothing had ever happened. No matter how committed we are to unkindness, selfishness, or greed, the genuine heart cannot be lost. It is here in all that lives, never marred and completely whole. Imagine what would change if we remembered that. We are in tumultuous times here on planet Earth, particularly here in the United States. Within the last 10 days, we have had upwards of 20 shootings. Mass shootings defined as 4 or more people. There is a pain operating in our collective consciousness that has covered the hearts of who we are. We are each participating in the solution or the problem. We cannot participate in the vilification of what we dislike and call it unification. It's not. We have to see beyond the behavior to the behavior. We have to remember that we are a part of a whole. And if we go to separation, a state of being separate, we are living a lie. And we are creating more discontent. And I'm not saying it's easy to recognize and identify and unify, to be in a state of unification consciously. Because we're there, whether we consciously agree or not. We are in a state of unification with the whole. But our mind is powerful. Our thoughts are creative. And are we adding to the separation? Or are we adding to the harmonious operation of the whole? The unharmed, the undamaged whole. The heart, the spiritual principle of wholeness. I've shared this with folks before. It's a spiritual practice that I use that obliterates any sense of separation. And it is a spiritual practice that is challenging, very challenging. And it came to me in the mass shootings. And it's what I call my I am practice. And so when something shows up on the news that I instantly want to vilify, I go to my I am practice, and I start with the thing that is most out of resonance with my being. The police that mistakenly fires their sidearm instead of their taser. I am the police officer. I am the shooter. I am the shot. I am the parent. I am the grandparent. I am the police chief. I am every protester. I am the gun manufacturer. I am the bullet. I am the gun. Because if we are truly a whole, if there is truly one I am, and there is no separation, then I am one with everything. What I can tell you is that it will break your heart. This I am practice will break your heart because it challenges all of those egoic places of separation that Pema Chodron talks about, where we think we're protecting ourselves. We're not. We're burying the most precious part of ourselves under lies. We are one. We are a whole. And so I invite you to embrace the moments of hesitation, to embrace them as a blessing, as a point of choice, to understand that divine discontent is a moment of power. It is a moment where we get to choose which path we're going to take. Whether we're going to take the path of separation or the path of unification. Whether we're going to participate in the solution or the problem. It doesn't mean we don't have feelings, folks. It doesn't. It simply means that we choose. As Ernest Holmes said, our highest satisfaction comes from a sense of conscious union with this invisible life. The invisible, not the visible, the invisible. If we get stuck in what we see, we surrender our highest contentment. Our highest satisfaction comes from a sense of conscious union with this invisible life, finding such an inward wholeness that all sense of fear, doubt, and uncertainty vanishes. That's what's available to us. If it were an easy journey, we would all be part of mega churches. It's a simple journey, but it's not easy. It's not easy in this human realm, but it is ours if we choose it. And so 3 questions, 3 things to play with this week. Look back in your past. Can you find a place where Spirit was evolving and unfolding even when you couldn't see it at the time? Can you find it and go, oh, that was unfolding even when I didn't see it? Second thing, if you're experiencing a hesitation in life, know that you're out of alignment with your God self. That's what that hesitation is calling you to recognize, that you're out of alignment with your God self. Right? Get honest with yourself. Where are you actually placing your trust? Is it in the human realm of all of the problems? Or can you shift to the courageous? And the third thing is to move beyond conditions. To move beyond waiting for some condition to change or someone else to do something for you that is within you to do. Because to believe that is to believe that you are a center of limitation. And you're not. Doesn't mean we don't collaborate. But if we're living in a belief that there's something outside of me, well, that's the first clue, because there is no outside of the whole. Right? And so play with those this week. Where are you putting your focus? And challenge yourself to experience the wholeness that you already are. Let's take this into prayer. And so with this breath, I recognize the one, the infinite, the ever-present allness of life. The source, the one, the whole. Creating out of itself, by itself, to experience itself in multiplicity, yet never separate from itself. This is my life. There is one life. That life is God. God is my life now. Always has been. And what is true of me is true of all creation. Every form of creation. The divine in form. And so I speak my word this morning, lifting up every expression of creation. Knowing, affirming the wholeness within each physical being. The spiritual magnificence, the unlimited abundance. The unlimited vitality of perfect health. I speak a word reminding each and every one of us in human form that we are whole, perfect, and complete. Consecrated, blessed by birth, made holy by design. That this is our birthright. And so we say yes. We say yes to being more than we can imagine ourselves to be. And in this yes, I know it is already fulfilled. That the same mind speaking the prayer is the same activity making it so. And so I surrender. I step into the unseen. I step into the unknown unfolding of life with complete abandonment and absolute confidence that it is holy, consecrated, consecrated, perfect, undamaged, unharmed. And I let that be my experience. I invite you to join me by anchoring this together as we say, Amen. Amen. Shalom. Aho. Ashe. And so it is. And to answer one last question, all those are just different ways of saying amen.